They say that anger is just unprocessed grief. How familiar and willing to work through grief are you? I know for myself, I absolutely hate it. It's like, yeah, it sucks. Going through it opens up old wounds. It brings familiar, unprocessed feelings and emotions up. Old memories can come up. There's a lot that can surface when it comes to grief. I'm going through a bit of a grieving process at the moment for a project that I was a part of a couple of years ago. And I guess I never really grieved it properly. So that's what we're talking about on today's episode of the R.Y.S.E podcast. If you could do all the amazing things to be able to help this get into the algorithm, tickle the like button, drop a comment, share it around, do all those things because it greatly impacts our reach and the amount of people that can hear the 70 plus podcast episodes and everything else that we've got going on the channels. So with that, let's roll the intro clip.
The thing that I value more than anything is three things. It is authenticity, it is transparency, and it is vulnerability.
Appreciate you for being here. Let's get into the video. Welcome to another episode. I'm Dave, and today we're talking all about grief. But specifically, I'm going to talk about what happened to Forging Excalibur for the first time. I have been sitting with this grief for a while. I know that there's a lot that was left undone from that project wrapping up. And it sucks because the thousands of men that we were impacting with the podcast, with the videos, with our containers was phenomenal. And it sucks because I very much feel like there's a lot of work left undone. I'm going to read you a social media post that I did today talking about my experience, talking about my grief. And then I'll talk a little bit further about some of the things that I really miss. Some of the things that I'm actually going through and grieving. Because like I said before, there's things that have left undone. And I don't like that. The mind doesn't like that. There's a mechanism inside of our unconscious to want to close off loops. We want completion. We want integration. So I'll get into that now. Put my glasses on because I can't see shit. This goes for you guys as well. I'd love to ask you a question, and if you could answer it in the comments, I'd greatly appreciate it. Did you enjoy my old, long-written content? I'm seeking to develop a deeper relationship with my muse, my anima, the spirit of creative and artistic expression. I'm going to begin a daily writing practice that I hope will turn into some form of mythopoetic ritual in seducing the muse to linguistically dance with me once more. I used to love writing massive thought extrapolations and contemplations that allowed me to make sense of the inner and outer world we occupy. I'm not sure why I stopped, but it coincided with leaving my old position inside of Forging Excalibur. Upon slight reflection, I just found it had to do with a festering resentment and unprocessed grief. Feelings of great work left undone. It's interesting when you close off and suppress feelings of grief, resentment, bitterness, anger, or any other negative emotion, as these are all great teachers pointing at parts of you left unintegrated. These parts can and will affect other parts of your life. Like what I'm sitting in, being unfamiliar with my creative and animating muse. Something I ask you to consider is where in your life are you ignoring what is and pushing it down to not feel deeper into your anger, sadness, fear, guilt, shame, resentment, embarrassment, and all the other negative emotions. I thought that I'd work through my experiences of what happened, but clearly there's more to witness and integrate. I'm sad that our work got cut short. We had a great team of coaches and we were doing such amazing work with the men in our containers. So many transformations of the men and their relationships, purpose, businesses, communication, healing, and so much more. I gave so much of myself to the cause, to the mission of serving over 1 billion men worldwide, to have it ripped from under my feet and feeling blindsided. I really thought it was going to be the vehicle to take off to great success with hundreds of men in each container, being served by dozens of coaches, live presentations on stage, and massive retreats. And then it fell apart. I'm not the greatest at processing grief. Truth is, not many people are. It's just another layer of conditioning to swallow it and get on with it. Which at one level of thinking is exactly what's needed. And at the same time, what you suppress, deny, and avoid winds itself further into the shadow, where it can take on various maladaptive and unconscious behaviors. I used to be willing to take myself into the depths of my unconscious, or as far as my psyche would let me, and find things to work on, to work through, and then present my findings and learnings to my audience. Something changed in the last 2 years, and I'm making a very deliberate and conscious decision to bring a new version of that forward. And if you've enjoyed listening to this, please let me know with thoughts in the comments. And to my muse, to my anima, I'm ready to reconnect with you on a much deeper level. So for my unconscious that's always paying attention, show me tonight. Show me in a dream. Show me in symbolism. Show me in metaphor. Show me in deep synchronicity that only I will understand. To my higher conscious mind, allow whatever needs to come through to come through. Allow whatever somatic, visionary, auditory, or kinesthetic things to come through and make it so perfect that it's undeniably from you. Allow that to happen tonight in my dreams or over the next 24 hours through waking consciousness, through meditative consciousness, through gardening consciousness. To sit here after reading that out sucks. What we had with Forging Excalibur was special. 2 years after leaving, because ultimately the business was hemorrhaging money. And the founder, Michael, was doing all that he could to be able to plug holes. But there was just too many holes. We weren't getting enough men into the container. There's a lot of problems when it comes to men and saying yes and taking action. So many guys just are willing to sit by the wayside and do nothing. It's part of the reason why I changed R.Y.S.E to focus on men and women. I was solely a men's only program, men's only coaching, men's only podcast. However, there just wasn't the men that were willing to stand up and do the work. Out of all the free resources that I had, the containers that were on offer, the coaching programs, all the things that I offer to be able to help everyone, to be able to transform their lives, to be able to raise your standards everywhere, men just weren't taking it up. So I thought, okay, I'm going to branch out. I know that I have a couple of different female avatars talking from like a marketing sort of perspective. So I'm going to start venturing towards them as well, because ultimately all health and wellness, all personal development, financial health, relationships, all of it, we all experience the same thing. We all have masculine and feminine inside of us. As a bloke, we have a feminine anima. As a female, you have a masculine animus. So reconciling with that to be able to pivot R.Y.S.E into something that it is now and continues to unfold was because it came from men not showing up, men not saying yes, and going through that initial beautiful breakthrough of saying yes. Because the moment that you say yes to something, possibility opens. You open up doors, red carpet gets rolled out, and you're on your straight and narrow path towards who you're supposed to become. But it didn't. When I joined Forging Excalibur, it started with this book here, Forging Excalibur, Rediscover Your Masculinity by Michael Laurier. Michael was a mentor of mine. He was my coach. He was my boss. And back then, he was doing great. He was doing amazing things. Since that time, I've lost contact with him. To be truthful, I've had a quick Google to see what's going on with both Michael and Forging Excalibur, and it appears that it's shut up. It's gone. None of the content's there. None of the podcasts are there. It's vanished. Which sucks, because we were onto something. When I joined what was the hero's journey in 2020, just before the pandemic started, we had a container of maybe 16 men going through the 12-month hero's journey with a monthly call. I think there was a fortnightly call halfway through the program because of the depth of the work that was inside of it. And it was transformative, to say the least. This episode is ultimately a massive testimonial to what Michael took me through, specifically me and my journey, going in further into archetypes, going further into Carl Jung, going further into work of like purpose, integrity, compassion, courage, strength, like discipline, like all of the 8 standards of men as they became to be. All of that stuff was thanks to me starting the hero's journey with Forging Excalibur back in 2020. And now it's gone. The principles, the concepts, the content is still deep in here and in here. And I want to bring it to the world, except, plagiarism, getting sued for presenting things that aren't mine because they're copyrighted by him. That first container that we did of what became the Knight's Code, which was an 8-week was going to be self-paced, but ended up becoming an 8-week container with 3 of the other coaches, including me. There was myself, Justin, and then Nick. There was another coach, Tyson. He was the youngest of us all, except he pulled the pin to be able to focus on his footy. He's a young fella. And he probably made the decision. He jumped ship before it started to sink. That first container with the men that were in it, it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Some of the most transformative, deep conversations. Men stepping deeper into their purpose, to being intentional, to carrying themselves with integrity, to only telling the truth, to have courage, strength, compassion. They did so much. And they lent on us. They trusted us. They respected us as coaches to be able to facilitate the work that's inside of Michael's book, that was inside of the program. We continued developing. We continued growing. We kept adding more content, adding more things, more podcasts. Like, we were moving and shaking. Things were crazy. Then we moved into the newer version, the 6-month version of the hero's journey, where every single month we focus on the first month with shadow, because there's so much inside of shadow. If you don't understand shadow, how the hell are you meant to be able to do anything else? And after shadow, it moved straight into purpose. From purpose, it went to core values. Core values, then purpose. And then from there, went into the self-image. Those 4 months were so powerful. There was so much transformation that happened just inside of those 4 months. Then we moved into things like fatherhood, moved into your intimate relationships, and I can't remember what the other two modules were that were inside of it as well. I think it was down to, I'm not even going to speculate. It's been so long since I've looked at the content. That first container that we ran only had 6 men that were inside of the first program that went all the way to completion, and I think only 3 finished. It's hard work. It broke me so many times, especially when it came to one of the modules, courage, which back when I did courage, the task was to go do something that terrifies you. That program is the reason why I'm engaged to Rach. That program called me forward into so much action to become the man that I am today, and continually to grow upon, because it was literally the call to adventure. Every single one of you out there know a part of your life where you need to have more courage to be able to do the thing that's left undone. In 2020, October 2020, with all the chaos that was around, with all the, the bullshit, the control, the misinformation, disinformation, with the widespread divisiveness that was going on and the coercion, all of that stuff, I needed to make something big to be able to change my life, to be able to say yes, to have that big breakthrough. So I got engaged. I remember Michael saying in the container, you all know exactly what that thing is that you need to be courageous on. You know exactly what that is. So go figure it out and go do it. And then report back to the group when you do it. The moment he said that, I felt like there was a giant spotlight on me saying, you know exactly what this is. David, I see you. I didn't feel called forward. I felt called out. But realistically, that was my shadow trying to hide, because I was thrust upon the light and I didn't like being there. I wanted to hide. I wanted to run away, because there were so many hang-ups that I had from, terrible relationships of my own past, let alone every single one of my family members being divorced at least once. So marriage, engagement, all the, traditional things, I was very much a contrarian. I went the opposite way. And then to be able to say yes and to commit 100% to get engaged, to one day get married, to say yes, was a massive transformation for me. There was so much alchemical gold inside of just that one module. I have to run something very similar. Similar with enough twist to make it my own so that I don't get sued. Because the work that was inside of there was so damn transformative. It was so heavy. It was so fucking hard. But it's made me who I am today. It gave me this new worldview. Sucks that it ended. Then around this time, we started creating the next program. It was called the Armory. The Armory was a 12-month long personal development journey, which started with the Knights Code. There was one program that we created, which was like a beginner intro sort of thing, talking about psychological concepts, talking about values and certain standards, talking about things like Steve Cartman's The Drama Triangle, self-actualization, all these sorts of things. We did like a taste test. It was like, here, have a go of this, and if you like it, then you can come into the other containers. At that same time, we had some posts going viral on TikTok. One of them, I was the social media manager, so I was the one replying to all the comments. I was the one making sure that, every single person got spoken to. And then from there, that led them directly into our Facebook group. We went from 500 members inside of that group all the way up over, I think it was 2,000 in the space of 6 weeks. And a lot of it was because I just kept commenting to people and spending hours upon hours replying to everyone saying, hey, check out the link in our bio, join our group, sort of thing. There was so much momentum, but we just couldn't capitalize on it. I'm not sure if it was our messaging, because it was really over the top, a load of like King Arthur sort of language in there. It was very, very profound, very... very profound. It was very Arthurian. So if you go back into the Arthurian myths, talking about Forging Excalibur, talking about Excalibur and the stone, and King Arthur and Merlin, and all the different archetypes, and the search for the Holy Grail, the whole hero's journey from Joseph Campbell, which leaned heavily on and was influenced by Carl Jung, something that I'm heavily influenced by as well. God, it's to sit with the resentment, the frustration, and ultimately grief, because this went away. I wanted it to work so bad. I thought that was going to be the vehicle that was going to get us to launch into the stratosphere, to start, having thousands of people like subscribing to the podcast every single week, and we had so much momentum. God. And then things started falling apart. Like I said earlier, because Michael was hemorrhaging money in the business, he started leaning into other things, started leaning into crypto, started leaning into his own personal legacy. And sadly, I found out that, actually, I probably can't even say this on the podcast. There was things that happened, and I believe, God, I gotta be really careful with what I say. The crypto space, that's enough to say. Yeah, I better not lean on that. The writing was on the wall. At the same time, my intuition was telling me to run, and I didn't listen. My intuition told me 6 months earlier that I need to get back into PT to be able to start, earning some money, doing some clients one-to-one sort of sessions, building programs and stuff like that for myself, for my own personal business, whilst I still did Forging Excalibur on the side. And I did it. Ultimately, I did it. However, there was so much conflict of interest inside of it that any time that I put up anything to do with personal training, health and wellness coaching, my own hypnosis sort of thing, I'd have comments left that were subversive, coercive, very manipulative, talking about going back to Forging Excalibur. God, in hindsight, the writing was on the wall. That's the thing with hindsight. It's 2020. You can look back and go, shit, here's all the things that went wrong. And I guess the idea is to be able to process it enough to look at it, really look at it, not suppress, deny, avoid, grow the shadow sort of thing, and pay attention to what's going on. Because there were so many things with my intuition that I was just like, yeah, I see it. I'm acknowledging it. I'm wary of it. We'll see how we go. If push came to shove and, gun to my head sort of thing in the end of 2020, end of 2021, start of 22, when things were feeling rocky and I had that intuition to jump ship, I should have taken it. That's one of my biggest lessons out of this, going through this grieving process, is I trust my intuition 100%. That's actually something that I worked on when I went to Morgan Nelson's Dream Out Loud method this year. One of the belief systems that I installed and I deliberately created is I trust myself 100% and I trust my intuition. Anytime that I get that whisper, feather, brick and truck analogy, anytime that I get that whisper, pay attention, because you're about to be blindsided by something if you're not paying attention to it. Especially when it comes to pattern recognition, when it comes to little things that you notice in people's behavior, in people's language. People will tell you the truth, whether it's conscious or unconscious, whether it's verbal or non-verbal. They'll tell you the truth. They'll tell you what's going on. They'll tell you what their intentions are. You just have to pay attention. It's why I study communication so much. It's why I study linguistics so much. Why I study the unconscious, archetypes, all of the things that I do is to be able to help me see that the map that I have in my head is not the territory, and then to be able to apply as many filters and lenses onto the territory in reality so that I can make better, well-informed decisions, so that I'm not blindsided, because I've been blindsided way too often in my life. Truth be told, I've been way too naive. I've trusted people way too much. I thought, oh yeah, they're a good person, they're a good bloke, good woman, I can trust them, and then only to get fucked over by it. So I guess a part of my grief lesson is to trust your intuition, see the writing on the wall, and then to ultimately make the call, make the decision, take the action. When it comes up, and it will, and it always does. Pay attention to what comes up, then make the decision straight away. Or at least air it out there, bring it into conversation and say, hey, what's this? What's going on with this? It's like, addressing the fart in the room. It's like, hey, did you really just drop your guts? And if they did, they can own up to it, or they can lie. And then they're telling you the truth as it is. You go, hey, did you drop your guts? This is a crude analogy, but fuck it. Did you drop your guts? No, I don't know what you're talking about. It's someone else. The moment that they deny that they lie about it, then you can see who they really are. Or if they turn around and claim it and go, yeah, that was me, it was a bad one, wasn't it? Then you can see who they really are as well. People are always telling you the truth at all times. If only you can pay attention to your own truth and live in it authentically, always. So I think that's enough from this one. Talking about grief. There's more for me to do. There's more for me to unpack. I actually think that something good for me to be able to get some integration, to get some peace on this matter, is to go through the body of work of Forging Excalibur again, to find all the little things that I'd left behind and to bring them with me now and integrate them into who I am again. I have this habit of leaving things behind. I don't like it. It's not good. There's probably some shadow work in that for me to do as well. So if you've resonated with it, if anything, questions, comments, greatly appreciated. I would love it if you drop something down in the comments. Like I said at the start of the episode, tickle the algorithm, give me a like, a sub, a comment, share this thing around, do all the amazing things. Much love, take care, follow me to rise higher. You know what you need to do. Like, comment, share this around, subscribe to the channel, stay tuned for all of the awesome things coming out of R.Y.S.E, because we're only just getting started. Thank you so much for being here, watching another video. Much love, take care, and follow me to rise higher.